hear this? You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
And we're back. Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. You're listening to us on KGRADB.com, band.video. We are live in just about every shape and platform. We are currently finishing up a sentence of a 2-week ban on our official YouTube station, our YouTube channel. But we do have the YouTube Strike Zone up. It's the Rundown Live Strike Zone, and that can be found on our Facebook. We're also back on Facebook, who conveniently we found out why we finally got banned. We're going to dive into that today. We're here live with my co-host, Don Vai Jr. of the Free Thought Project. And as you guys know, I've been off in New York. I was giving a presentation at Pine Bush on William Cooper's indictment of MJ-12 and UFOs, which was really interesting as I spoke to a packed house, as well as I hear, did you hear about this big reunion tour, Don? I hear that like the Who and the Monkees are getting back together. Yep. And Bill Gates is playing guitar for the monkeypox. And, Fauci there, he's playing drums, and we have a great reunion tour. We have the monkeypox reunion.
You had me excited for a second there. I'm a huge classic rock fan. You got my hopes up.
Today, we are going to be diving deep down into Bilderberg 2022. I'm sitting here in New York, totally stoked, got my mind diving deep into topics about what I'm going to be covering and evidence to suggest that the indictment of MJ-12 by William Milton Cooper that I received was accurate, tying it into the mainstream media reports of, what the Ministry of Defense in Israel said and the rods of God and all these things that are actually coincide with Cooper's indictment of MJ-12 to give my speech. And all of a sudden, Don had to ruin my life by sending me a message in the chat on Friday morning, and that was Bilderberg updated their website. They updated their website. And if you guys don't know what Bilderberg is, we're going to dive into that profusely here. But Bilderberg is this elitist meeting that was started by former Nazi collaborators in order to establish kind of a Fourth Reich per se and further their Nazi-esque agenda tweak it and make it so people think it's more beautifully packaged in a Christmas present. So, the Who and the Monkees are doing a reunion tour. Bilderberg is meeting the elite, like 150 of the wealthiest and richest and most powerful people are meeting in the world in Washington, D.C. And I can't go. I'm sitting in D.C. And so I contacted immediately Mark Anderson, who is the Bilderberg sleuth. He is the man who was Jim Tucker's protege. He's the guy that blew the alarm and everyone loves about Bilderberg and brings up a lot of that stuff. Him and Daniel Estulon, who wrote a book, amongst other things. And he got back to me in 5 minutes. He's like, they're probably at the Mandarin Hotel. They're booked up through the 5th. I let Jason Burmis know, and before we knew it, people were on the streets. Burmis went ahead, and he was on Clyde Lewis Ground Zero. I'm glad, he rocked it out there talking about Bilderberg. You guys should check that out. If you didn't know that Burmese was over there, the Burmese Brigade was on Clyde Zero's Ground Zero, Clyde Lewis's Ground Zero. Check out that interview amongst other things. But we're back today. Share the live link. Give us a thumbs up. And Bilderberg is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to dive deep into it. And I wanted to start out kind of a little bit by talking about this article I wrote so you guys can understand the background. So this article, we used to put out a publication at the Rundown Live. It was called Waking Up Wisconsin, and we would put it free throughout the entire state, right? And this is from 2013, me writing about Bilderberg, and I'm going to go into this real quick. The title of the article was Nazi Money Talks, Is the Bilderberg Group the Fourth Reich? In World War II, we overcame the Germans, but did we overcome the Nazis? Many questions surround World War II, from Adolf Hitler's mysterious suicide to Project Paperclip, which Henry Kissinger fronted. During Project Paperclip, the United States granted thousands of evil Nazi scientists and workers safe haven at the end of World War II, often given high-profile government jobs. They did not stand trial for their evil doings. Instead, they were rewarded with premium jobs and stability. Nazis quickly integrated their principles of eugenics and socialism into our culture, education, and science. We could see this in Common Core education, CRT, and the propaganda of depopulation in today's high school education. In the end, the money that funded Adolf Hitler would never stand trial. Eugenics sat as one of the core principles of the Nazi Party. So what is eugenics? Eugenics is a racist pseudoscience that is determined to wipe away all human beings deemed unfit, preserving only those who conformed to the Nordic stereotype. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws codified an exclusion of Jews from German society. The next year, the Reichsgericht, German highest court, essentially legalized the Holocaust. No one thought they would ever actually use it to kill. It mirrors a similar law passed by Barack Obama at midnight in the New Year's Eve in 2011, when no one would notice, called the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act. The Defense Authorization Act gave the ability for him to have an assassination list, for those that don't know. So the big question is, has the Nazi ideology been defeated? Where is the money and brains that once provoked Adolf Hitler's genocidal campaigns now going? Who is funding the eugenics operations today? Evidence leads to a secretive group with a Nazi foundation that has met since 1954 called the Bilderberg Group. On March 8th of 2010, Bruno Waterfield of the London Telegraph reported that the Bilderberg Group founder, Prince Bernhard, the father of Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, was a member of the Nazi Party. Who would have thought? And guess who was hanging out with them? David Rockefeller of the Rockefeller Foundation helped create the Nazi eugenics program and even financially funded the evil programs that Joseph Mengele worked in before he went to Auschwitz. Paul Nurse, a British Nobel Prize-winning biochemist and president of the Rockefeller University, is a proud believer in eugenics and is an inspiration to none other than Bill Gates, according to the World News Daily. They like to give each other prizes such as the Nobel Peace Prize to give the impression they are good people. The Nobel Peace Prize used to have credibility, but much was lost after Adolf Hitler's nomination in 1939. The elite behind the ideologies are always making up fake awards and giving them to each other. Bill Gates, software billionaire and financier behind Common Core education disaster, and his wife Melinda have previously advocated the reduction of the human population, or murder per se, through the use of vaccines. Bill Gates hosted a depopulation summit that some of the richest people in America, according to the World News Daily, met. The meeting included the biggest names and billionaires club, according to London Times, Bilderberg Group regulars David Rockefeller, Ted Turner, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, George Soros, Mike Bloomberg, and all were in attendance. His father, William Gates Sr., was a contributor to the creation of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger, a supporter of Hitler's Nazi Party and founder of Planned Parenthood, has been incredibly successful in her pursuit of eugenics. Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion provider in America. 78% of the clinics are in minority communities. Blacks make up 12% of the population, but 35% of the abortions in America are blacks being targeted. Isn't that the definition of genocide? Nobel Peace Prize winner and Bilderberg Club of Rome member, Dr. Henry Kissinger, wrote, depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the third world. More meaning, we should kill everyone unfit in third world countries. Many historians have likened Kissinger to the war criminal or global mobster, as Kissinger, Nelson Rockefeller's protege. Kissinger began his career under the old money global elite by recruiting Nazi scientists and SS officials to America through a secret counterintelligence corps, CIC project. They evolved into the Central Intelligence Agency's infamous Project Paperclip. The Bush family, in the beginning of the 1920s, Prescott Bush joined banking, energy, and medical industrialist John D. Rockefeller and the British royal family in financing the earliest racial hygiene experiments. These genocidal efforts predated Hitler's. The early eugenicists sought to sterilize mostly black populations who were deemed genetically inferior at the time. And for most of the 20th century, they promoted sterilizing mentally retarded children for the same reason. Allied banking industrialists are now known to have funded Hitler's ascent to power. Hitler termed a rising Fourth Reich based on the previous vision of a 1,000-year Third Reich and world empire. This was outlined with clarity in a document called Nordnung, the New World Order, that was accompanied by a letter of transmittal to the Ministry of Economics. It declared that a new world order for the petrochemical pharmaceutical industry of the world should supplement Hitler's New World Order, a phrase used by President George H.W. Bush in 1991. And of course, now none other than, Joe Biden. We all heard that. George Soros in World War II was a Nazi collaborator. Soros and fellow eugenicist Bill Gates are two of Obama's biggest supporters. Bill Gates and Soros purchased 900,000 and 500,000 shares of Monsanto, respectively, in 2010. And as you guys know, you guys can't turn on a TV commercial without a Monsanto GMO settlement commercial because it causes cancer, depopulation. Is that by chance? We don't know. We don't know. But that's essentially the foundation of the Bilderberg Group. And so all of a sudden they're meeting in Washington once every 4 or 5 years. And I wonder if it's because Joe Biden was in charge.
Who knows? But, that really is a very comprehensive history. And honestly, I would love to see if we can get that reprinted on the rundownlive.com, just in case anybody who hasn't read it can also read it again, because that's a fantastic article, brother. And also, just to point out Monsanto, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that there, because in recent years, I think in like 2018, so years after you wrote that article, Monsanto was actually bought by Bayer Pharmaceuticals. And for those who don't know, Bayer Pharmaceuticals back in the 1920s and 30s was under a different name in Germany, known as IG Farben. And IG Farben just so happened to be the exact same company that helped create Zyklon B, which was the chemical used in the Holocaust gas chambers. So, yeah.
So you would think at this Who Monkeys show concert reunion that's going on in D.C., because of course they're going to be talking about the monkeypox and the good old Who band reunion. Maybe they played for him with, they got out there and Fauci got his drum set and, Bill Gates came out and who knows? I heard Zelensky made a cameo as well via.
Yes, that he did. Shockingly enough, the Nazi meeting that was founded by Nazis and is still headed by people like Kissinger and Rockefeller, who bankrolled the Nazis and assisted the Nazis, has a cameo by the head of the current Nazi regime in Ukraine.
The Azov Battalion. Hey!
Yeah.
Oh, boy. But yet the media is nowhere to be called. Now, I want you guys to think about this. If 150 of the most popular basketball players got together, everyone in the news would be there. If 150 of the top scientists in the world got together, everyone in the news would be there covering it. If the top
unless they talk about ivermectin.
Yeah. If the top actresses in the world all met together, there would be coverage. All right. And on the screen is video coverage of someone that was there live. This is new news. This is their link. We're going to go ahead and pull this up for you guys so you guys can see. But this is where it was. It was in Washington, D.C. I wonder why they chose Washington, D.C. So here we have it. This is the actual video from outside of Bilderberg. And as you can see, they had the fences. They had the fences, and they covered the fences up with tarps so people couldn't see through the sentences. What's going on? First of all, just so you know, what they are doing is illegal. It
Yeah.
is illegal and a
The
felony.
violation of the Logan Act.
What is the Logan Act? Let's pull up the Logan Act. Let's see what the Logan Act is. And I want you guys to know that every one of these Americans that are there, they should be
Tried for treason.
yeah, by the strictest offense. So here it is. The Logan Act makes it illegal for U.S. citizens to engage in unauthorized foreign diplomacy, including to influence the measures of conduct of any foreign government or to defeat the measures of the United States. In more than 220 years it's been in existence, only 2 people have been charged. Now, I don't understand why everyone isn't being charged, because the Logan Act, this is as basic of a violation. Look at this is like the definition of the Logan Act.
Exactly. But it's not surprising, because these are the exact same people who write the laws that they want to agree with and disregard the laws that they don't care to agree with. So, it's not shocking whatsoever, but it's really interesting because we have that list of people who were there, and of course we're going to run down that and deep dive into it, into who were there. But of course, the list of individuals that they do release is not the complete list. There are a number of individuals who attend Bilderberg every single year, and even some who are just, invited on a whim, who are not included on the list. Of course, we remember back in 2016, Hillary Clinton was not included on the list, but she was most certainly there. So it's really interesting the fact those fences are covered. It's obviously done very much to protect the individuals who aren't on that list.
Well, not only that, there's no press allowed. In fact, there was a statement, and in front of me, I have a book that I recommend very highly. It's called The True Story of the Bilderberg Group by Daniel Estjalon. And I got this book, believe it or not. Do you know those libraries that say leave a book, take a book, and they're on everyone's yard, and you can go online and you can find it? Well, right here, this is what I have in front of me. And the London Times in 1977 had this to say about the Bilderberg Group. It's a clique of the richest economically and politically most powerful and influential men in the Western world who meet secretly to plan events that will later appear just to happen. Oh, they're going to just later appear to just kind of happen. It is difficult to re-educate people who have been brought up on nationalism to the idea of relinquishing part of their sovereignty. So they want you to give up part of your sovereignty. Prince Bernhard, the Nazi founder of the Bilderberg Group. World events do not occur by accident. They are made to happen, whether it is to do with national issues or commerce. Most of them are staged and managed by those who purse the strings. Dennis Healy, former British defense minister and Bilderberg attendee. Those are just some quotes of people who've been to the Bilderberg Group to give you an idea of what it is about. And here we see Josh Friedman, and obviously none other than We Are Change. Luke Rakowski was as well at the Bilderberg Group on Sunday. They made it out there and they started identifying people. So let's talk about who some of these people are. First of all, the vice president of Facebook was invited to the Bilderberg Group.
Yeah, I actually have some notes here that I was writing last night when I was doing research for all of this. I got down some of the names of some of the key individuals that were mentioned here. So let me just pull up.
For those that don't know, there's actually a website called bilderbergmeetings.org. That's who I was communicating with. And I want to let you guys know that I'm 100% sure, 99.9% sure why we got a Facebook and YouTube ban. First of all, Facebook ban was like none other. I've gotten bans before. There was no reason other than in the last year we spread some form of misinformation. They didn't tell me what. They just tagged me on it and they said this is misinformation. 30-day ban. Well, guess what happened in that 30-day ban? The vice president of Facebook was at the Bilderberg Group meetings. And guess who's one of the top people out there that covers secret societies and these sort of things?
Exactly. Exactly.
No.
Yeah. It was just as irritating for me because I live in Central Virginia. I'm about an hour and some change away from DC. And if I had known ahead of time, despite the fact that my truck's not working, I'd have found a way up there. I would have found a way up there. Your boy would have been on the ground covering these scumbags. But getting back to my, this brief list of notes, I got a handful of individuals here, key participants. Henry Kissinger, of course, top of the list.
Do they like bring him out in like some like transhumanist vest where he's got like praying inside?
I think
he's
I'm pretty
sure up on some kind of like automatic floating device that levitates like a spaceship. He comes out there like, I am here to go ahead and tell you.
He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like 99 years old. The guy's like Senator Palpatine. I am the Senate. Yeah,
like laser beams that are shooting out of his hands, and he's like, I will take over the world before I die.
Literally, he's like Palpatine. He's literally like Palpatine after the fight with Mace Windu. He's the attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed.
But yeah, Henry Kissinger was there. I can't believe 99 years old, floating in some like transhumanist device, keeping him alive, probably on oxygen, and who knows what else.
But get this. There are a number of other top tier names that definitely deserve some recognition. Peter Thiel, the former founder of Palantir Technologies, big military industrialist firm, military industrial complex firm there. There's also the current CEO of Palantir was also there. The head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, the head of the CIA, William J. Burns, the head of GCHQ, which is one of the UK's top intelligence firms that kind of work hand in hand with MI5 and MI6.
The former head of the CIA is working to undermine sovereignty in the United States because that's what the Bilderberg Group is 100% about. Is giving
the current head of the CIA.
The current
head of the CIA, William Burns, but also former CIA director and also ex-general David Petraeus is also there. Head of GCHQ, which is one of the intelligence and cybersecurity agencies in the UK. They work hand in hand with MI5 and MI6. So his name is Jeremy Fleming. National Security Council Director Jake Sullivan. The U.S. or the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, Oksana Markarova. The Canadian Deputy Prime Minister, Christina Freeland, which, by the way, Dan Dix did a great report on, asking whether or not she's going to end up replacing Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister, which is a very high possibility. So definitely keep eyes on her. Let's see. I just lost my place on my notes. That sucks.
You want to know what I noticed in all these names that you're talking about? They lack diversity. And where's Antifa? I expected Antifa to be out there. They hate fascists. Well, they were all meeting for and literally not well, as we know, these are the same people that behind the doors fund the anti-fascists, the real fascists, because that's how it works. Like the Rockefellers fund the People's Revolution, which is the foundation of communism that stemmed out of the secret society known as the Bund Society, who got its origins in the Bavarian Illuminati, So it's basically the same group of ideology and same idea here. Look at this. Henry.
I mean, Henry Kissinger and the Rockefellers are the two top players of establishing both of these ideologies. I mean, they both assisted with the establishment of the Third Reich, as well as the Third Reich scientists coming over to America during Operation Paperclip, as you mentioned. And it was also both Kissinger and Rockefeller that were instrumental in propping up Mao Zedong and essentially creating modern-day communist China.
Well, here we have it, AI scientists. I saw this in 2017 when I was at Bilderberg. They had AI scientists there. We asked some of the people at Bilderberg, and the one thing that they kept telling us is we were discussing how to give disclosure of UFOs. And we all laughed at them, but here we are. People are out there giving disclosure, including governments, of UFOs. Literally everything is being discussed at these meetings, and they're literally the control steering committee for governments across the world. This is the evil empire, like you mentioned, when we talk Star Wars. And by the way, Star Wars is an allegory of itself. You have Lucius Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, another name for Luke is Lucius, or Lucifer, the sun, who walks the sky, who's fighting against Set, or the follower of Set, Darth Vader, and Set in Egyptian folklore is darkness and nighttime. And so it's all a play on words. That's why Darth Vader has a square and compass mass. And it's funny because, Jordan Maxwell would always talk about his relationship with George Lucas, and makes it fun. This is kind of almost an analogy of what we're seeing here. Literally, we have AI scientists there. They're talking about. We're going to get into the topics too, but I'm looking at some of these names. NATO was talking, Finland is there, and where's Finland talking about trying to get into NATO? Isn't that interesting that and then the head of Bilderberg currently is a guy who sits on the World Economic Forum, and it's not Klaus Schwab. You see, you will not own anything in the future. But we're coming across commercial break here real quick. So if you guys are enjoying this program, we need your help. If you're in Rockfin, drop us a tip, drop us a super chat. We have new t-shirts on sale to Rundown Live. Look at these things. They are hot. You can see right through them on the green screen. You can't get a shirt like that anywhere else. Stop in here, check out the Rundown Live, and we'll be back after these messages from our sponsors. Support us. Go there, share the live link, drop a thumbs up, get some comments in the chat, and let your friends know to tune in. This is where it's at, the Rundown Live. We are breaking down and surgically dissecting these criminals, the Bilderberg Group, when we get back with a whole bunch more.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count, why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time. Time, you've got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires with Sound the Alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
And we're back from break. Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris. And I wanted to dive into this video here to give you guys a little background on what the mainstream media started to pick up. Who would have thought The Hill, out of all places, would talk about the Bilderberg Group? Here it is, The Hill discussing the Bilderberg Group.
On your radar. Well, the Bilderberg meetings held this past weekend at the Mandarin Oriental in Washington, D.C. convene again for the first time after a 2-year pandemic hiatus. About 120 of the West's most powerful people, including heads of NATO, CIA, and NSA, prime ministers of nations, big tech executives, and vaccine makers, gathered together to discuss the world's problems, mostly focusing on war and foreign policy. You've probably never heard of these meetings. Most people haven't, and that's no surprise. The meetings are conducted in secret without any press. In fact, the organizers are proud of the secrecy. On their website, they state, The meetings are held under the Chatham House rule, which states that participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers nor of any other participant may be revealed. Thanks to the private nature of the meeting, the participants take part as individuals rather than in any official capacity, and hence are not bound by the conventions of their office or by pre-agreed positions. Oh, sure. So democratically elected policymakers and other government chiefs who work on the taxpayer's dime go and sip cocktails behind closed doors in a luxurious hotel discussing important matters such as war, global alliances, pandemic responses, and disinformation with the corporate billionaire class all weekend in secret without the press. But don't worry, they're doing it as private citizens. So it's okay, because what they discuss probably won't affect us, right? They actually completely blocked off the Mandarin Oriental for these meetings. Here's independent journalist Josh Friedman reporting from the location. Now, the Bilderberg meetings actually have their own website where they do give us some insight into what it is they talk about and who attends. This year's meeting covered 14 topics: geopolitical realignments, NATO challenges, China, Indo-Pacific realignment, Sino-US tech competition, Russia, continuity of government and the economy, disruption of the global financial system, disinformation, energy security and sustainability, post-pandemic health, fragmentation of democratic societies, trade and deglobalization, and finally, Ukraine. In fact, The Guardian reported that Zelensky himself was rumored to be making an appearance via Skype. Curious if he was also attending as a private citizen. People on the published list of participants, including wealthy investors and bankers like Peter Thiel from Thiel Capital and executives from Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs. The CEO of Pfizer was there, presumably to talk about post-pandemic health. The list includes many from the artificial intelligence space, such as executives from Facebook and DeepMind, as well as the former head of Google, oil and gas executives from Shell and Naftogaz, Ukraine's largest oil and gas company. Many experts on Russia and Ukraine were in attendance, as well as politicians, policymakers, and global leaders, such as Senator Kirsten Sinema, NSA Director Jake Sullivan, CIA Director William Burns, the King of the Netherlands, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, Finland's Prime Minister Sanna Marin, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, the head of French intelligence, and even Henry Kissinger. This year's meeting was led by the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg. But again, they insist there is nothing of public importance going on at this meeting. It's just private citizens getting together in a blockaded hotel, chit-chatting about global matters like war and pandemics, nothing of consequence that we should be concerned about. So there's no need for any reporting or transcripts. The few reporters who attempted to gain access, reporters such as Max Blumenthal, Josh Friedman, Frank Analysis, Luke Radowski, were denied, and actually the location of the meetings themselves were never announced and remained secret. It was reporter Josh Friedman who was able to figure out where the meetings were even happening. As much as the organizers want to claim all of these powerful people who have the ability to march us into wars, shut down entire nations during a pandemic, and spend endless amount of taxpayer money on things like weapons of mass destruction, are just operating as private citizens, we all know better. These people are not getting together to mingle. Even though nothing official comes from these meetings, no votes, no resolutions or policy statements, there absolutely are ideas being exchanged and decisions being made. The question is, aren't we the people entitled to a reading of the minutes? So what do you think, Olaimi and Robbie? Do you think we should be knowing what is going on behind these closed doors, who's in attendance, what they talk about? Shouldn't there be transcripts, reporters in these meetings with these very powerful people? Or is it fine that they're just private citizens getting together, chit-chatting about war?
No, it's not fine at all. I think we absolutely are entitled. Like that many politicians, different countries. There's no way. It's not chit chat. It can't be something. Listen, I don't believe in secrecy anywhere but attorney-client privilege when it comes to our lawmakers and the people who are responsible for us and make these decisions over our lives, especially at a time like this. We should know everything they're discussing, who they're discussing it with, and why.
Right. How about more privacy for genuine private citizens? We need privacy from these people. These are the spy masters.
Absolutely.
These are the people.
Absolutely.
These are the people watching us at all times. How many? Right. We're talking about NATO people. We're talking about former CIA, FBI, law enforcement type people. It's not just those aren't private citizens anyway, or maybe they are now. They weren't before. They have very public facing roles, and they are coming up with policies. that they want everyone to be forced to adopt. So it's not, it's not going to be, they don't want it to be voluntary. They don't, I'm sure a lot of these people wanted vaccine mandates. They want, funding of, they want weapons sent various places. They want interventions. They want all kinds of things. So, well, fine, but let's discuss it. Let's know what's being proposed. Let's not have it behind closed doors if that is the case, which it is.
Yeah. And this meeting has been going on since I think 1957 was the first meeting, and it's annual. It just skipped a couple of years because of the pandemic. Maybe they still met via Zoom or something, but they've been doing this for the longest time. And the fact that it isn't being reported on because reporters can't get to it, and the fact that that's not even being reported on by the mainstream media. I mean, you have prime ministers showing up to this thing, and like you mentioned, spy masters. You have the head of the CIA, the head of French intelligence, which is their CIA or their MI6. So that it's crazy that all of these people are getting together. Then you have not only just policymakers, but they're mixed in with the billionaire corporate class. So you have the heads of corporations that are absolutely no doubt there trying to encourage these world leaders into policies that are going to line their pocketbooks, of course. So you've got the CEO of Pfizer there saying, hey, we need to buy more. You guys need to buy more vaccines. It's a national security. You, of course, have guys from the spy. There's a lot of artificial intelligence. This should be very kind of frightening for people. A lot of artificial intelligence people there that are looking for ways to spy on us to prevent disinformation, right? And you've got others. So all of these industries, weapons people, artificial intelligence, vaccine, all of these different groups, what are those CEOs there for? What are those board members or chairman of the boards? What are they there for? They're there to get money. That's what they're there for, to influence policy. So we've been putting up with this for a really long time. There's not a lot of light shed on this. Anybody who then talks about it is called a conspiracy theorist. But it's like, look, these guys are not helping with they say, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. But if you're going to hold a meeting behind closed doors, you're going to blockade it off. You're not going to let anybody report on it. What else? What do you think that is? I mean, that sounds.
The way I see it is, in our current world, like, nothing is secret, right? There is no privacy. You know what's happening almost everywhere. So the ability for this many important people to be in a place and we not hear about it, because I didn't know about it. This sounds like an episode of Billions, and that in and of itself tells me it's untoward. Right. So the fact that the fact that they are even able to successfully go to whatever links, and there must be links to keep this completely private from us. There's a reason. There's definitely things being discussed you don't want us to know about, hear about, or even get an indication that there might be happening. So that tells me everything I need to know that we should be privy to it. Because at the end of the day, we elect government officials. We have these people in power because they're supposed to serve us, right? We put them in the place. We want to know what they're doing. We want to have approval in it. We want to have a say in it. So instead of giving us access to it, we have no knowledge of it. Reporters can't go there, but you have billionaires there, and the billionaires are getting to discuss what you're going to do and what you might do. That is definitely a problem.
Well, and then this whole notion that they could separate and suddenly be private citizens. You've got all these, okay, that's one thing if it's like a birthday party that they're going to for their niece or nephew, but it's another thing if it's a bunch of powerful people in these positions of decision making, and then they're just saying, oh, but don't worry about it. They're operating right now. Yeah, this is just these are just private people. They're nobody, I mean, insane, totally insane. But, I wish I could tell you more about what happened at these meetings. I don't know.
And there we have it. Kristan, you're still muted. I'll be honest. I'm actually quite, in recent months, I've been quite surprised by The Hill. They've been actually doing a pretty good job at times, at least on their morning show Rising, which was that was an episode of. They've actually been doing a pretty good job of doing decent reporting from time to time from some of the episodes I've seen over the months. Not saying that there's not still mainstream and peddling the mainstream narrative, of course, but there have been a couple episodes I've seen that I've thought, damn, these guys sound like us. What's even going on here? So kudos to them, at least for at least.
Well,
for
you know what it is. Though, you know what it is we're taking away a lot of credibility because we're the ones always exposing things and being called conspiracy theorists that keep being right. That they censor us because what they deem as misinformation is exposing the truth. If you have a mountain of lies and you build that mountain of lies, the only way to destroy and explode that big old mountain is with a truth bomb. And, that's the facts. Like, the truth is what destroys it. And the idea that this many people need to meet in the annual meeting secretly is definitely a violation of the Logan Act. And some of these attendees have been fined by their countries. And it has, it's like Bohemian Grove is another one that's coming up. Maybe I should raise money to go cover Bohemian Grove in California. I would really like to do that. So if anyone has extra money and they want to send me to California, flight miles, hotel minutes, whatever it is, I will go cover the event, and I would be happy to be there, as you guys know. I'm kind of curious on how Josh Friedman heard it was the Mandarin Hotel. I wonder if he heard from Burmis or if he found out like I did from Mark Anderson, or if he called them. You never know. People, once we knew it was happening, everyone was to the races per se. And I was trying to work behind the scenes. It's all I could think about before giving my speech at Pine Bush on William Cooper's indictment of MJ-12. So let's dive into this. Some of the things and topics that were big at the Bilderberg group. But before we do, I want to go ahead and bring up this Guardian article. Okay. And it kind of dives into some of this stuff. Here it is. This is the UK Guardian. This guy was at the Bilderberg 2017. I met Charlie in 2017. He was there. He was the only mainstream media other than RT and I think Press TV, who are both deemed fake news. Now you know why. Because these people that are meeting in this secret group are literally working against the American public. How is the FBI okay with this? If 150 of us activists met in secret, every recording device on every phone would be redirecting data to the Pentagon.
You know it. Abso-freaking-lutely, you know it.
If Luke Rukowski, Kristan T. Harris, Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, let's say Mike Adams, like if we had our own Bilderberg group, you know that the media would be there reporting on it, trying to discredit it. You know that there would be like feds, infiltrators, everyone and anything and every person that could come out of the woodwork would want to be a fly in the wall trying to understand what it is that we are doing. But here,
and Speaking of Jones and Burmis and just the secrecy and lack of media attention, when I was watching Jason's coverage of Bilderberg last night, I was going through some of his videos he's released over the past few days. He made a really good point about the fact that they kept Bilderberg so close to the vest, because if someone like yourself and myself, or say even more so Alex Jones, knew that this was going on, was able to amplify it and tell people, hey, this is where it's going to be, this is when it's going to be. With the amount of protests we've seen against the New World Order of these past 2 years of COVID-1984, there would have been thousands upon thousands of people outside of that hotel.
Listen, in 2012 was the biggest one. They had like 1,000 or 2,000 protesters, and they were playing the Henry Kissinger song. In 2017, Jones didn't go. I was there. David Knight was there. He got his own little night shows that he still does, David Knight News or Nightly News. I forget what he calls it.
The David Knight Show.
Yeah, he was there with Owen Schroyer. It's the first time I met the Owen Schroyer, the Schroyer Meister, who we got to invite on the show, by the way. We got to get him on. I keep meaning to send him a text and saying, hey, bro, come on the program, which we should do. But I think that they would amplify it. But I don't think, unless Alex Jones showed up and combated these guys face to face, which he should be doing. But listen, the guy,
I would love to see it, because I'm an old school Alex Jones fan. I remember AJ in the 2000s, man, early 2000s, 2008. He's standing out there with a megaphone. Your new world order will fail. I was like, right on.
Well, you know what? Jones went from just being a single guy doing a radio program to having a whole ministry of truth. Like empire of media. Like we're part of that empire. Like we have to deny that
video.
Yeah, band.video. We're up there. Like you guys need to go follow them. It's something we have to get on our website now. I know it's up there mentioned. We have links, but we need to put a big fat banner. Like Bilderberg, which is something that I think is important, reconvenes in person after a 2-year pandemic gap. This is in the UK Guardian. And according to this, it says Bilderberg is back with a vengeance. After a pandemic gap of 2 years, the elite global summit is being rebooted in a security-drenched hotel in Washington, D.C. with high-powered guest list that includes the heads of NATO, the CIA, GCHQ, and the U.S. National Security Council, 2 European prime ministers, a healthy sprinkle of tech billionaires, and none other than Henry Kissinger. And listen, First of all, if the CIA is working against sovereignty of American citizens and U.S. National Security Council is working against the sovereignty of American citizens, who's to say that they're not working on every aspect to get kids on SSRIs and advertise school shootings so it replicates it in order to disarm America so they can literally take all our freedoms and liberties like what we saw in Australia, like what we're seeing in Canada? I want you guys to think about that for a moment.
Project Orion, Bill Cooper called that out in his book Behold a Pale Horse back in 1993.
Yeah, page 225. And I know that the Reese Report did a video on it just recently. Like literally there's studies saying that when people jumped off the Empire State Building because they're suicidal, somebody thought that was the way to go out in a bang and make the news, and at least people hear of you. And
the same thing happened with the Golden Gate Bridge, the exact same effect with the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's exactly why they put safety nets underneath it.
Right. We even have that here in Wisconsin. We have the Hone Bridge, and they did that because people would see it on TV and they're like, well, that's the way to go. We're going off the Hone Bridge. And, you show the kids this is the type of gun to use. You put them on SSRIs. You tell them, gun-free zones. These kids aren't going to a military complex and shooting place out. They're not going to the cop shop. They're not going to government buildings. You know where they're going, where they've been programmed to go by the vision that tells you lies. So what a difference those 2 years have made. The Western world order, which the Bilderberg group has been quietly nudging into shape for the best part of 70 years, is in all kinds of flux. Back in 2019, the last time Bilderberg met in the flesh, the conference kicked off with the optimistic topics, a stable strategic order. And what next for Europe? This year, however, the agenda reeks of chaos and crisis. Top of the schedule is the blandly terrifying item, global realignments, followed by NATO challenges, and the biggest of which is obviously Ukraine. Global realignments. What do you think they mean by a global realignment? Because, the United States once was probably part of a different globalist group because we were probably in the Russia-China group because we were against globalism. And it's not in a xenophobic way. These people are trying to force their agenda to us. They're internationalist fascists. By definition, they're neo-fascists.
Yeah, exactly. And global realignments could be any number of things because, of course, they have their conflict in Ukraine, which is being utilized to foment so many things about the Great Resets. We have the Great Reset itself, which they're attempting to kick off. And of course, the Great Narrative, which is not receiving as much coverage as it should since it was announced last year. But essentially, the Great Narrative is their means of propaganda to sell the Great Reset. I know Derek Brose did great coverage on the announcement of the Great Narrative when that first came out. And then, of course, you just have to look at the past 2 years of COVID-1984 and the amount of people that have risen up around the world against it and overthrew it. I mean, even now we're seeing these massive attempts of power grabs from the World Health Organization with their International Pandemic Treaty. And even now, just to throw in a little caveat there, some good breaking news with regard to that. So many countries in Africa, so many African nations, as well as India, Brazil, and a number of others are actually pushing back against that totalitarian pandemic treaty from the WHO. So, small victory there. Keep fighting, guys. But, there's so many things that are going on right now that I guess would constitute the need for them to discuss a global realignment because I think they're scared. They realize people are not buying their shit. People are waking up. They're fighting back. They're pro-freedom. The fires of freedom and liberty are still burning inside people, and they need to try to figure out a way to shut it down.
Well, you know what it really was? I figured it out.
What's that?
Henry Kissinger came so he could pick team captains for the kickball team. He realigned all the people in the room, half on one side of the room, and they each picked a player for their global realignment team. And that's basically what happened.
Definitely.
For those out there that don't get what we're talking about, that's global realignment. They are realigning boundaries. They're realigning probably commitments. They're probably trying to get everyone back on the same page because of the COVID pandemic. They probably maybe even discussed because in 2009, let's not forget, it was rumored that they were talking about in the Bilderberg group about using vaccination as a form of depopulation. Mm-hmm. And so here we had Pfizer. I wonder if there was a just realignment of strategies. Obviously, Bill Gates is exposed. He's out there. Emperor has no clothes. He's hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. His wife is divorcing him. His life is a mess, and he feels like he's a champion eating hamburgers while making synthetic, transhumanist meat out of kittens. and so you can eat, not really out of kittens. But I just wanted somebody to search that because somebody will be like, transhumanist kittens. Yeah, some people are working to make cats' life live longer, like Gennady Stoliarov, and God bless you, because I love my cat. But these evil people, life extension, these kind of topics, you would imagine that would be part of it. But global realignment and NATO challenges. What are some of the challenges NATO is experiencing right now? They're getting pushbacks from China. NATO's getting pushbacks from Russia. They used to get pushbacks from the United States, but now we've bought into this internationalist, fascist, neo-fascism ideology that we need to change our world for these globalists. And these are the same globalists that are funding the BLM movements. They are funding the anti-fascist segments, either through like offering buses like we've talked about in the past, or other things. And I'm not saying nationalism is entirely terrible. Let's be honest. The whole idea is they want to destroy nationalism for the ideology that they can get more sovereignty, meaning not for them, not for us, but they can steal more of our sovereignty. Like, I'm taking it from one pile, the national sovereignty ideology, and giving it to the globalists. So the globalists their biggest scare is transparency, because transparency is the truth. And global realignments means that there has to be some realignment, that there's a shakeup in leadership, that there's a shakeup of uncertainty in the world right now. And Bilderberg has not met in 2 years, so I can tell you some of these things. Other than the world, we also know that the World Economic Forum gets their directive from the Bilderberg group, just like Davos. It's always been an echo chamber. So I guess once Davos and G8 happen, we'll have a better idea what they talked about. But going back to this article, just for, to finish up. To be sure, Washington Conference is a high-level council of war headlined by the Secretary General of NATO. Because NATO is a peacekeeping operation, not by diplomacy, but by blowing shit up. Bilderberg veteran Jens Stoltenberg, he's also joined at the luxurious Mandarin Oriental Hotel by the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., Oksana Markarov. Bakrova, and the CEO Naftogaz, and a state-owned Ukrainian oil and gas company. So guess who's making money right now? Big oil. Have you seen gas prices? Like, they're like $5 a gallon, bro. Like, there's no way. Like, Lyft drivers and Uber drivers and like Grubhub drivers are like, I think I need to look for another job, because people, and all of a sudden, all those people that rely on those services, they're going to be looking for jobs closer to home. But
with this conflict in Ukraine, I mean, the two largest profiteers by far, weapons manufacturers and big oil. I mean, just like pretty much every other war, but especially right now, man, as the rest of the world's economy is in shambles, except for Russia, of course, because the U.S. sanctions against Russia are actually hurting us and not them. If you actually look at the ruble has bounced back to pre-war highs. Like, Russia's economy is doing freaking great right now. But pretty much, the U.S. and so much of the rest of the world's economy is in shambles. But man, those guys that in the weapons manufacturers and the big oil, they're rolling in it right now.
Well, what I would have liked to do is be there until Monday and then poke through the garbage bags. Which is
I'm pretty sure anybody wrote down any notes, crumpled them up, and threw them away.
They had to take the trash out, because that's what Jim Tucker used to do. I used to hear the stories where he would literally get dressed up in like janitor outfits and things like that to get into the Bilderberg. Like, he was like old school sleuth. Like, he'd be sitting there. Mark Anderson did the same thing. He just walked right in, said he owned it, and he started asking people at the Trilateral Commission and some of these globalists, like, because they go out for cocktails. People leave the site. Here it is. It says they'll be clinking bespoke cocktails in the Empress Lounge, which with some of the Allied war effort leading lights. Among the Chrystia Freeland, Canada's half Ukrainian deputy prime minister. The summit is heavy with experts in Russia and Ukraine. I wonder if Trudeau was there, including the assistant secretary of defense for international security affairs, Celeste Wallander, and ex-deputy national security advisor Nadia Shadlow, who has a seat at the elite steering committee of Bilderberg. You know what the elite steering committee of Bilderberg is? It's called the Club of Rome. The conference room is rigged up with video screens for shy, degenerate dignitaries to make virtual attendance, and it's likely that Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky, will zoom in for a T-shirted contribution to the talks. just a few days beforehand. Zelensky met with the Bilderberg and the U.S. intelligence representative Alex Karp, who runs Palantir, an infamous CIA-funded surveillance and data analysis company. So my question is, you know what's coming up tomorrow?
What's that?
The January 6th hearings. They are using January 6th to go after every one of their political enemies. You know why they were having it probably in Washington, D.C. in part to have an idea of how they can go after what they deem misinformation, but is really going after the people who are exposing the truth. That's why the Rundown Live got a 30-day ban on Facebook for no reason. That's why YouTube.
Yeah, if you actually look on their press release and go down their topics of what they were discussing, which we are, one of the main topics was disinformation. So they're definitely discussing that.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive all into these topics here when we get back from commercial break. I hope you guys have been enjoying today's program. If you have been enjoying today's show, there's a couple ways you can support us. Give us a thumbs up. Drop some comments in the chat. We need your donations. Tip us on Rockfin. Tip us on Rumble. Or you can just donate paypal.me/Kristan T. Harris, or go to the rundownlive.com. Click the store link. Pick up one of these sexy t-shirts. It doesn't look better than it does on you. I'm telling you that. You look better than I do. So you definitely go out there. I have a face for radio. We'll be back with more on this year's 2022 Bilderberg extravaganza on the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. Don't go anywhere. As you know, we've been bringing you the truth for 12 years. We'll see you after these messages from our sponsors.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count? Why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time. Time, you've got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires with Sound the Alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
And we're back from commercial break. You're listening to the Rundown Live on KGRADB.com, band.video. And we got a special guest joining us. I invited Josh Friedman, who was at Bilderberg, on before the show was started, and it was last minute. We had no idea if this guy could come on, but the man who was at the front gates of Hades there in Washington, D.C., now joins us. Josh Friedman, welcome to the Rundown Live, the rundownlive.com. We're excited to have you on this broadcast. Tell us, how was your experience in Washington, D.C.?
Well, thank you for having me on, Kriston. Good talking to you. It was quite a strange experience. It's a very oddity to be standing outside an event that has, or a meeting that has the King of the Netherlands, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, the head of the CIA, head of French intelligence, Henry Kissinger, all these CEOs of major multinational corporations like Albert Bourla of Pfizer, and so on and so forth. All these dignitaries meeting in one place in the middle of Washington, D.C., not on the outskirts or outside of D.C., right in the middle. And for much of the conference, I was the only person or one of two or three people standing on the outside, other than obviously the large security and police presence.
Yeah, that's incredibly wild that you guys seem to be the only ones there and that nobody was able to make it out. I got a message early Friday morning from my co-host here, Don Vai Jr. from the Free Thought Project. And I immediately took to the phone and called Mark Anderson, Jim Tucker's protege. And he made some calls around, and he found out relatively quickly that it was at a place called the Mandarin Oriental, different from their Chantilly, Virginia, their standard location. And as we're going to be showing here on the video of you and Luke Radowski from We Are Change, standing out in front of the Capitol, or Washington, D.C., the Mandarin Hotel here, look, they literally blacked out all the fences, so you guys couldn't see. There were no reporters allowed inside. What was it like when you got there? Were they surprised? 'Cause I bet you they thought they got away with this one.
Well, to some extent, they did get away with it, because when the press who show up on the outside are unable to be there on Thursday, Arrivals Day, then that really limits the amount of time that many of the participants are exposed to cameras. If members of the media, the few ones who do show up on the outside, that is, aren't able to photograph members as they're arriving, then for a lot of the participants, they're going to be able to avoid cameras entirely until they're leaving, and even some of them will still be able to avoid cameras. But for me, showing up, it was odd in the sense that I still, at that point, hadn't confirmed that the event was really taking place at the Mandarin Oriental. I didn't really confirm that until I started seeing participants and running into participants. So that was very odd. But seeing the fencing outside and seeing the black SUVs with the tinted windows and all the cop cars and all the huge security presence, that was normal for Bilderberg. That had all the hallmarks of Bilderberg, but it was very strange showing up there and still not being sure that it was actually taking place there.
Yeah, I can't, it blows my mind because, first of all, you point out a very important subject, is that we get most of our information when we cover Bilderberg by sitting at the airports, the international airports, being out there prior, because we at least know normally a week or two prior where the event is going to happen. So we get there early. Sometimes we stay at the hotels that they're staying at, try to get information or how things might be aligned, anything and everything. And when the days arrive prior, we go to the airports and try to identify people, because the way they're picked up with a very normally black limousines, and they all normally have a special marker on their vehicle that identifies them as Bilderberg limousines. And when they do this and they pop up, in fact, the question is they were already in the hotel when they announced it. The first day it was already in progress when they said, this is where it's at. So no one was able to really, I would say, ambush journalism or ambush journalism and get information. However, when they were leaving the hotel, it seemed like you guys were able to get some video. Who did you guys recognize? Anyone that was not on the list?
Well, I got video of people coming in and out throughout Friday. You could say throughout Friday through Sunday, the days 2 through 4 of the conference. And then on the last day, Luke and I did go to the airport, and we did recognize several people, and we got a few decent ambush interviews, if you want to call them that. I still have a lot of footage to scroll through. I still have people. I'm still trying to identify some of the participants that I got shots of. I don't think at this point I have identified anyone who was there who was not on the list. There's one photo that I'm looking into that potentially was someone who was a participant who was not on the list, but thus far I can't say that I've identified anyone who was in attendance who was not on the list.
Yeah, what kind of information did you get from them when you spoke to them? Did they give any talking points, any kind of information all around, or did they even acknowledge that they were there for Bilderberg, or did they kind of laugh it off like they did in 2017 and tell us that they were discussing disclosure of UFOs and alien technology?
No, there weren't any jokes like that. The participants I ran into on the outside of the hotel had next to nothing to say to me. Some of them just completely walked away from me and wouldn't acknowledge me. Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, gave me a wave, even though he was sort of hiding behind the fence. But I saw him out there quite a few times. Mark Carney, peculiarly, Mark Carney's the former head of both the Bank of England, Bank of Canada. He peculiarly showed up Saturday night getting out of a taxi and was immediately smiled and was friendly with me, but didn't really have anything to say other than he missed most of the meeting. I ran into Admiral Mike Mullen, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he just completely ignored me and walked away from me. But then at the airport, Luke and we got a handful of participants, not the most notable ones, but we got a handful of participants to speak to us a little bit.
So the press was barred from accessing this information. Why is it so important that they have secrecy in these meetings, do you feel?
Even though I've been to several of these on the outside now, it's a little difficult for me to say. I can understand that there are certain maybe certain advantages for some people to be able to make comments under Chatham House rules and to feel like they can speak freely as Bilderberg claims, but the secrecy always goes way beyond Chatham House rules. If it were just Chatham House rules, then the participants could come outside and talk to the press and talk about what's being discussed inside the meeting, just not attributing it to any person or to any or giving any clues as to who that person might be. That would be Chatham House rules, but the secrecy goes well beyond that. And sometimes we do find out that people are meeting in formal capacity. Like this year, Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, indeed met with Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin at Bilderberg in the garden, the hotel garden area. Stoltenberg kind of oddly tweeted out a photo with the caption explaining that they were indeed discussing Finland and Sweden's bids to join NATO, which was a bit of a startling revelation considering that it was the photo was taken at Bilderberg. He just didn't mention that it was at Bilderberg. So if indeed there are public officials meeting in formal capacity behind closed doors, and in certain cases maybe violating certain countries' rules about those kind of meetings, then maybe that's the need for the secrecy. But it's always left up to speculation, really, because that's it. The event is very secretive.
Yeah, that's one thing we mentioned earlier was the implementation of the Logan Act, and or the fact that the meetings like this really, when it comes to U.S. officials at least, like David Petraeus and Jake Sullivan and some of these other individuals, these sorts of meetings are absolutely a violation of the Logan Act. Of course, they have a little bit of shielding, saying that it's under Chatham House rules and not an official capacity, but even then, it's still a violation. Of these sort of procedures and whatnot. And if it wasn't, then, it's just sort of the contradictory of the fact that the Chatham House rules is even there.
Certainly wasn't last year, but after the last Bilderberg in 2019 in Switzerland, there was a Turkish economist who produced a full detailed write-up of what was discussed at the meeting. And I interviewed her, and I read the whole write-up, and it was very interesting and very informative. And she just simply said, look, I'm following Chatham House rules. So if you follow Chatham House rules, as it's basically laid out by Bilderberg meetings organizers themselves, then there's not really anything precluding people from, in some form, revealing what is discussed at the meeting.
Exactly.
Oh, except that you will no longer be included in these future meetings, most likely.
Yeah, reading between the lines, there are certain people who have been invited and have given insights to media or interested observers about what took place, and one might suspect they won't be invited back. But we'll see.
I was amazed to see that The Hill picked this up. And not only that, they linked you and posted your tweet. That's wild that the mainstream media, that The Hill and the UK Guardian, Charlie over there, when I met in 2017, he talked about this. But other than that, and The Trumpet, which is a religious outlet, which tried to make a joke of the conspiracy about it, even though the organization has its roots in Nazism and big money that funded the Nazis in World War II and its origins. No one's really talking about how this organization is really a secret society. And it's, as we know, the head of the World Economic Forum sits on one of the top advisory boards, the Club of Rome there. So how much of this do we think that we'll see through the directive of the World Economic Forum, Davos, and G8?
Well, you brought up Klaus Schwab. I wasn't aware before this meeting that he used to be on the Bilderberg steering committee. He's listed as a former committee member, but I've done a lot more tracking of Bilderberg than I have of the World Economic Forum. I've very briefly attended a couple World Economic Forum events or panel discussions, not in Davos, but at other meetings. They're much more out in the open than Bilderberg. But it would be interesting to look more into connections and crossover between the two, because obviously there is a lot of crossover.
So on their website, the bilderbergmeetings.org, they broke down 14 key focus topics that they wanted to talk about. And it's really interesting to me that they wanted to talk about things like disinformation. And the question is what is the disinformation? And, they want to talk about China and NATO challenges. These things that are down behind the doors, it seems like it's like it's wild to me to think that we have the head of the CIA there. They're going to talk about disinformation, and essentially the whole concept of the organization is to take away sovereignty from nationalist governments to establish globalized government, a corporate kind of run and led government that is global government, but is not elected by the people. So what we are seeing here is a hijack of everyone's world government or excuse me, everyone's government, and they're trying to absorb it into some form of global government. And they're talking about geopolitical realignments and NATO challenges and China and Russia and all the things that we should have been hearing from our president on during his annual presentation to the American people. But it seems pretty much like they are a hook, line, and sinker, and they're going to go after people like us, independent journalists who bring out the truth, because they want to take us as disinformation. And as we have coming up tomorrow is January 6th, the hearings over here in the United States. I wonder how much of that is they're going to weaponize the agencies to come after people who expose the corrupt nature of these organizations, these internationalist fascists per se, these globalist dictators, or this global mafia state, like George Soros said at Davos in 2017. It's all interesting to me, but what are some of these topics like geopolitical realignments? What do you think that means? Does that mean that they're picking new teams like you did in kickball? You have them aligned and you're like, okay, he's on this alignment of team, and they're realigning their leadership amongst the world, or are they trying to be more diverse? What is your opinion on global geopolitical realignments and the global realignment that they're working on?
Well, obviously, I can only speculate here. We don't, at least thus far, we don't have leaks coming out of the meeting the way there have been in certain years in the past, and I unfortunately haven't really done the best investigative report work or cultivating sources this year, but a lot has changed since they met last time, and I think that's what the key topics list reflects. So not only has there been 2 years of pandemic lockdowns, however you want to describe it, but obviously the Ukraine situation is very much on their minds. It appears on the key topics list. It appears on the participants list, in the sense that both the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S. and the head of Naftogaz were on the list. So there's a lot of geopolitical connections to that. And yeah, there is a realignment taking places with the relations between the West and Russia falling to where they are right now. And you have, notably with this conference, Finland and Sweden in the process of or trying to join NATO. So I guess those would be on the surface a couple things to look at, and how maybe everything related to the Ukraine and Russia and Europe situation might affect China. That probably is all interconnected, and the key topics list actually gets into that.
Josh Friedman, I want to say thank you for joining us on the Rundown Live. You guys can find out more about him. He has a Twitter, the Friedman Report. Let our listeners know on KGRA where they can find out more about you if they want to learn about Bilderberg. And you do great work, man. Yeah, I know that we've had you and your wife on. She's an actress, right? And you guys were out enjoying life during the pandemic. Flights were cheap, and you guys were traveling around. I think last time we talked, you were in Africa, having a good time while we were freezing here in Wisconsin.
Oh, I think we might have lost him.
We might have lost him. We did lose him. Josh Friedman, you guys check him out. As we know that the connection was running weak before, and we got him. We might have him back here just in a moment. But if we get him back here, we'll give him a chance to plug his stuff. Currently, you're listening to the Rundown Live on KGRA-DB. We're discussing Bilderberg and Josh Friedman. Oh, here we go. We'll add him to the stream. Josh, thanks for making it back onto the stream real quick. I wanted to give our listeners an opportunity to know where they can find out more about you, where they can support you and donate. Where can they find you out? Where can they find more about you? And I want to say thank you for joining us today on such short notice.
Thank you for having me, Kriston. You've got it pulled up on screen. At Freeman Reporter is where I am on Twitter. This conference, I've been putting out the most stuff on Twitter, probably because it was just important to be updating things in live time. I didn't really have the time to write articles about it or even record YouTube videos to the extent I usually do. But you can find me at Freeman Reporter on Twitter and Josh Friedman on YouTube.
Josh Friedman is our guest. Thank you once again, sir. We'll have to talk offline here, and I want to catch up with you guys soon. Thanks again for all the good work you did. Somebody actually covered Bilderberg, and it wasn't me, and I'm glad that you could be there. So thank you for all your hard work and all that you do to amplify the truth of what is happening in this world. Josh Friedman, everyone, check him out. As I said on his Facebook, and that's Friedman, Friedman, the Freeman Report. You can find him on YouTube. Support his channel. Go there, donate, do everything you can. Thank you for joining us on today's broadcast, Josh, on such short notice. That's amazing. And I want to say thank you to your commitment to journalism and what you do. That's not an easy thing. I do it, obviously, full time, just like you. And I'm sure we're going to bump into each other sometime soon in the near future.
Thank you, Kriston.
All right. That being said, I think that we're going to dive in and go over some more of these things that were talked about during Bilderberg. And what do they mean? NATO challenges, China. Like, what's going on in China? China doesn't like globalization. You don't see anyone from China really on the Bilderberg group meeting. What kind of diversity? They're xenophobic against Russians and the Chinese and probably Americans prior.
Yeah, which, I do find quite ironic considering, and as I mentioned earlier, Kissinger is essentially responsible for China becoming what it is today. But maybe, who knows, it's sort of become like a Frankenstein's monster, this runaway train that they can no longer control. Because, of course, as we know, other globalists and Bilderberg friendlies like George Soros, they've recently mentioned the fact that China is a threat to the New World Order, or rather the Western New World Orders, because communist China wants to create their own New World Order, much like the Russians want to create their own Russian world order. So just like you say, just because X country or Y country or Z country is opposed to the current iteration of the New World Order doesn't necessarily make them the good guy. It's not black and white like that. Anyone who desires power is an authoritarian, no matter what form it takes. But it's certainly this battle of authoritarians, as it were, seems to be playing out on the world stage.
Well, listen, if you have the ability to prevent the media from covering your event, how much do you want to believe that these same individuals can steer the media against any adversarial individual that they want? So who do you think is pushing out the pro-Ukraine disinformation? And one's talking about disinformation, it's going to be members of the Bilderberg group. This is a cool society. You're not part of it. It's like the Bohemian Grove, which will be meeting in just a couple of weeks.
And just really quick, actually, talking about media and media secrecy, there's a quote that I want to read off really quickly. I have it pulled up here. This was said by David Rockefeller at the 1991 Bilderberg meeting. This is an article from LouRockwell.com. It used to have the source linked to it, but I checked it last night. Unfortunately, of course, YouTube has now deleted it. But the Rockefeller says, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promise of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries." So that's David Rockefeller, 1991. Giving his little, of course, there's still recordings of that because allegedly it was recorded by someone who was there and then leaked on the internet. You can find that probably not on YouTube anymore, but I was able to pull something up on BitChute last night. So it's still floating around. But this has been a common practice for a very long time.
Right. And there's been, like, what was it? Some of the really weird magazines that are out there did write-ups on like the Bohemian Grove because mainstream media wouldn't publish some of these articles, and journalists and people who testified and got information from people at secret societies often got, like in Strange Times or, some of these more like tabloid like art magazines where they would have true stories, sometimes intermixed with all their fake, dinosaur man and crypto monster of the Loch Ness monster or whatever the guy's name is. Other than the Who and the Monkeys doing a reunion tour, like my buddy Bruce Montalvo keeps saying, the monkeypox are playing with the Who at the local venues on this breakout tour. I always like, come on, you can't make this up. The World Health Organization, monkeypox, all that kind of things. But disinformation. Why is it that they want to go after disinformation when they are the ones that are controlling the disinformation? So it's got to be about basically getting rid of people like me and you. That's what this is.
Yeah, I think the best example is the fact of the Disinformation Governance Board currently, or rather just recently, being shut down before it even got off the ground. There's so much public backlash, thankfully, because of, folks like me and you and Free Thought Project and Jason Burmis and Max Blumenthal and so many others who called this thing out immediately and recognized it for what it was and told people like, hey, this is we got to stand against this. It got shut down, of course, and Nina Jankowicz stepped down from her position. So people are waking up. They're realizing what's really going on. And, hopefully we see that same thing with NewsGuard. I don't think we'll have enough time to touch on it today. Probably tomorrow. There was a great article recently, I think out of Mint Press, but I'm not exactly sure, talking about NewsGuard.
BLM? A whole bunch of white people are meeting behind doors to discuss the future of the world.
Right.
Like literally you would think, where's the Southern Poverty Law Center? Oh, those that hate Bilderberg are anti-Semitic is what that's what's going to come.
Probably.
It was started by Nazis, and it'll be like, yeah, even though Planned Parenthood was started by Margaret Sanger and William Gates, they're not racist. There's no racist ties there. Just like there's no racist ties with the Bilderberg group, and there's nobody of diversity really representing anyone. It's all a bunch of people who are top conglomerates who are interested in destroying your sovereignty in this world. And we'll be back. You're listening to the rundownlive.com on KGRA-DB and band.video. Check out the rundownlive.com. If you want to support us, pick up a new shirt. The links should be in the chat, or go to the rundownlive.com and hit store and make your purchase. I'm mailing out the bought t-shirts over last week today. So we need your support. 100% listener funded. If you love this program or you learn to love us, just so you know, for those who've been following us on YouTube, we have the YouTube Strike Zone. The Rundown Live Strike Zone is a link that is our backup channel there for those that refuse to go to Rumble. We're also on Rockfin. So drop us a tip on Rumble or on Rockfin. We need your support. We'll be back exposing these global mafiosos and these people who want to make money when we come back from these messages from our sponsors.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count? Why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time. Time, you've got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires with Sound the Alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus, go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Tune in to the Rundown Live weekdays on KGRA Radio. Kriston T. Harris, Don Vi Jr. Visit therundownlive.com. Then we're back from commercial break. You're listening to the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com on KGRADB, KGRADB.com. We need your support, band.video. Donate, drop some cash in the chat, drop us a super chat, a tip. If you guys are looking for ways you guys can get something cool, we have these awesome Rundown Live, all-seeing eye, boombox, pyramid, UFO shirts that just look cool. People love them. I literally sold, I've sold about 10 of them in New York, which is cool. People who heard me speak, they supported me and they purchased shirts out there. And we've sold probably about 20 shirts so far. So we need your support. We are 100% listener funded. We need to expand. We need to find ways on doing and going out and covering more things. We can't do that without your support. Also support KGRADB. They got members only area. Check out band.video. They got all the best supplements you ever wanted over there. I take, Survival Shield. You want to hear something messed up, bro?
What's that?
Your plug. I've been doing this Survival Shield X2 now for like almost a month. All right. So I went and, everyone, I saw Jones going through that hard time where, they were really trying to go after him because he exposed these globalists into like the Sandy Hook stuff. And if you don't know, the people and the families from Sandy Hook dropped their cases against InfoWars and they threw it back to the state of Texas. And I don't know what Jones's sentencing is going to be for not providing information, amongst other things, to the court. But he was found in the wrong because he didn't provide that information. And he filed for bankruptcy on a couple of his side businesses to prove what kind of money he has to disclose, because they thought he had $100 million or something like that. So I bought some supplements because Jones has the best supplements. There's no doubt about it. So that's X2. I started taking it, and about a week ago, I started having crazy dreams, bro. Just wild dreams nonstop. And they're very vivid, lucid dreams where I can make decisions in there. And whenever I go back to sleep, the dreams continue and they continue. And I just wish it would stop. But I realized, I'm like, does this stuff, I looked it up, nascent iodine gives you dreams. It's like psychedelics without psychedelics. When you go and close your eyes, that stuff is great. And I've been doing that as vitamins. And, I've been taking the krill oil, anything to get the old ticker going. Because, as you get older and bigger, the ticker isn't working if you're not working every day. So,
of course, the brain force. You got to mention the brain force.
I don't know about, brain force I've taken in the past, and they've switched ingredients over the years. And some of them worked, like, I don't know how, like one of the styles worked real well. I take it as much as I can. I do notice a huge difference when I take Brain Force. You guys go out there, go to band.video, pick up some of that Brain Force, pick up some of that food out there, support band.video, because literally they have really helped amplify the Rundown Live. Like we've worked with Alex Jones's people, as in them aggregating our stuff, not worked with, but like they've aggregated our stuff for like since we almost started. We started rocking out great articles, and they were reporting news because that's what we do. We do a good job over here. And, Jones has been slandered. I think that in reality, the mainstream media isn't held to as much accountability. We're going to learn more about that with the Rittenhouse Facebook trial that might be coming up. And speaking of which, on the 21st, the Zelensky trial takes place here in Kenosha. And if you guys don't know, this is Kyle Rittenhouse Part 2, where Zelensky was the one that shot the gun in the air that made Rittenhouse turn around, and that's when he saw Rosenbaum running at him and popped him a few times. Literally, we're going to be there on the 21st to cover that, amongst other things, to give updates from the courtroom. So don't go anywhere. Find the Rundown Live, therundownlive.com. We've been talking about Bilderberg today, the global mafia state, the Z Bilderbergers. And when we go through this list, these people should be all in some sort of trouble. They should be making them sweat and not want to go back. But then again, they meet at Bohemian Grove or some other place. They just go underground. So is it better to know than to not know at all?
Right. I've always been a huge advocate of transparency. So I've always been of the belief that it's certainly better to know, even if the information that you're finding out is unpleasant. It's something you don't want to hear. It's still important that you do hear it, because knowledge, being a 90s kid that I am, knowledge is power. But it's true. It's cliche, but it's very true.
Why do you think? So here's some of the people. The list of attendees is often secret, but the organizers have confirmed a few people attending this year's meeting, like former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. Do you think that's about AI, the metaverse?
Oh yeah, dude. When I was watching, when I was going through the list of those individuals who were there last night, there are so many AI people there. I mean, from Eric Schmidt to the founder of, or not the founder, the vice president of Facebook, the CEO of DeepMind. I mean, there's a crap ton of AI people there. And of course, we know at Davos, just last week, the World Economic Forum and was discussing with Meta representatives and whatnot about AI. And there's even an article that we aggregated from Activist Post on the Free Thought Project. We put it out earlier today, covering the fact that now the World Economic Forum is saying your life in the metaverse will be more important than your life in the physical world. So that's definitely what a lot of these people, whether it be at Davos, whether it be at G8, G20, Bilderberg, and wherever else, they're definitely talking a lot about AI, a lot about technocracy, a lot about transhumanism, because that's exactly where the agenda is going, just like we've been saying for years and years on end.
We got to get them in the matrix. Get them in the matrix. We got to get the chip in the head so they get in the matrix. Pfizer, Mark Schneller, make the chip in the matrix. Hook them up, Elon Musk. Yeah. Then there's who else do we have on this list? CIA Director William Burns should be hit with Logan Act. But the Biden administration, he's in with the Bilderbergers. He goes there, he gets a. Do you think they have a Bilderberger Burger Day where they're like, build your own Bilderberger and they burgers, and they're like, what do you put on your burger? Pfizer CEO, he's like, oh, I put on the vaccine, and he injects it. And he eats it. Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, of course, the people who made the fake zine, the vaccine that didn't work for almost any. You can get the jab and still get sick. That and Joe Biden said that's not possible. Fake news. That's disinformation, but that's not the type of disinformation they're talking about at Bilderberg. And why would the former CIA head David Petraeus be there?
Well, David Petraeus, actually, he's a mainstay at Bilderberg. He's typically always there. We're not exactly sure what capacity he is there. It's assumed that he has some sort of, upper echelon, greater, position there. Still not exactly sure what it is, but I mean, typically when you go through the list of past Bilderberg participants, Petraeus is
the blackmail operation for the Bilderbergers. I mean, isn't that who can say who can commit crimes overseas and who cannot? These not like the kids. That's funny because of January 6th, if you think about it, these meetings that they're starting to spotlight, by the way, they first of all, they tried the hearings to make it the next big thing, and it kind of fizzled out. because the fact is, now we know that the person who is running the basic witch hunt is the same person behind the Whitmer case, which ended up just being a big Fed psyop, which smelt like Feds all around. And that was exactly what it was. So my question is how much is this January 6th thing a psyop for the CIA to go after the people that are actually promoting the truth? And I'm not saying QAnon is a truth thing. I'm trying to say that there's many people that they went after, they had nothing to do with that movement, that were just there filming.
Exactly. Yeah. January 6th was this huge conglomeration of things, just like we mentioned before. I mean, of course, you had the limited hangout psyop that was all that QAnon nonsense, as I like to call it, of course, as we've called out many, many times. But of course, as limited hangouts go, the reason why limited hangouts work is because you sprinkle a little bit of truth on top of a lot of nonsense. And for those who aren't in the know, it makes them think that the whole thing is legitimate. It's exactly why they work. It's exactly why QAnon worked. It's why the flat earth theory works on some people. It's why that nonsense about the moon landing being faked works on some people, is because you take a bunch of bogus crap, sprinkle just a little bit of enough truth on it to make it seem like it's all legitimate. It's very sophisticated.
Well, that's what you need. You need a little truth. The truth is that kids are being trafficked at Jeffrey Epstein. You blow it proportion, and then you mark anyone that's trying to expose the real trafficking ring as a QAnon wildest, and you arrest them on January 6th because the operation was exposed thanks to Jeffrey Epstein. And not to mention, what did we hear about the Clintons in the news? We can probably segue because that kind of fits into this. Senator Sinema from from Arizona. I wonder if they had to do with the Arizona, election misinformation. I wonder if they talked about how they basically stole the election in order to put globalists in here so they could try to take the guns while they're
I think
our eyes and causing mass shootings through mainstream media propaganda, advertising what the gun zones are and where to get the guns and all that fun stuff, because that's how you do it, right?
Isn't
and the
Senator
up behind the scenes and provides the misinformation to go overseas and come back here.
Yeah, isn't Senator Sinema the one? Isn't she the trans chick? Like, used to be a man and became a woman or something like that. I think that's the case. I may be wrong. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that might be her.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Let
me look it up really quick.
At 99, I'm not quite sure, but it could be ultra progressive, and obviously that's a big part of it too. But what I was speaking about is the idea that they're going after people that expose the truth. And now what do we have? They refuse to give information on a Clinton insider that was giving information and that allowed Jeffrey Epstein, right, into the White House. Isn't that what I'm seeing here? Here it is, UK Daily Mail. This is right up here. These are the type of people that are Bilderbergers. Exclusive. Family of Bill Clinton advisor who admitted Jeffrey Epstein into the White House 7 times has blocked release of files detailing the death scene after he was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast at a ranch 30 miles from his home. Top Clinton advisor Mark Middleton died by suicide. Oh, he shot himself in the back and then he hung himself, bro, at the age of 59. Can't make this up.
Yeah, I was reading this yesterday, like sort of, I don't think when the news broke exactly, but I saw We Are Change had posted something about it, and I saw Disclose TV had posted something else about it, and I was trying to get so much work done yesterday, I just kind of brushed by it and just checked out the headline really, but just what little bit I was able to glean from that. I mean, it's so ridiculous, the amount of ways that they quote unquote suicide these people, as if it's not completely obvious that you can't hang yourself after you shoot yourself in the chest with a shotgun.
He already hit the rope. He's up there on the tree branch. He points the gun at himself in the gun. Boom! He blows himself off. And,
yeah. Literally, it's arguably got to be the most ridiculous quote unquote suiciding I've heard in a long time, probably since Gary Webb, and shooting himself quote unquote in the back of the head twice. But this one is next level. I mean, there's Gary Webb's quote unquote suicide, and then forgive me, I can't remember his name. There was a holistic doctor who was speaking a lot of vaccine truth about 2015, and he quote unquote shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and then dumped his own body in a river. So beside those two, this
think of is that this guy, this top Clinton insider advisor, He must have been a risk to national security, so somebody at the FBI took him out. That's the way, bro. I mean, that's what it is. If you're a risk to national security, they take you out. That's what we saw with JFK, right? That was the justification of the CIA or whoever was directly responsible for JFK, is that he was a risk to national security. It's the same idea with anyone that gets close to the president that might have mysteriously died.
Right. I would say more so a risk to aristocratic security.
But that's how they do it, though. And we know that the FBI is blackmailed. In fact, we had Larry Nichols on the program. This is before Don was part of the broadcast, and it was Mike Pachazny and I, the Big Pizzone. And we were talking to Larry Nichols when he was dying of lung cancer. And he would say that the Clintons, the first thing they would do when they get into office is bring up everyone's files of anyone in the FBI that they could blackmail.
Yeah.
And that's the bodyguard for the Clintons for 20-something years. You can listen to that episode, by the way, on the Rundown Live app. We have a free app where you can listen to all our podcasts. It's available also on Amazon, I think, iHeartRadio and Spotify. Some of them go back only so many years. If you want a full collection of all our shows that have Larry Nichols and some of these cool people that aren't around Rosa Corey anymore, get the Rundown Live app. It's free. Google Play, Apple Apps Store, excuse me. Middleton was a President Clinton's special advisor who admitted Epstein to the White House 7 of the at least 17 times the pedophile visited. The married father of 2, who lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, shot himself at Heifer Ranch in Perryville, 30 miles away from his home. The DailyMail.com can now reveal Middleton's father, Larry, and his widow, Rhea, are fighting to keep photos and other illustrative content of his death sealed. The 2 filed for an injunction, arguing that blocking the release of the footage would halt the proliferation of substantiated conspiracy theories. What do you mean? What do you mean that there's conspiracy theories? Why would it? So his family are the ones that are trying to prevent this. The lawsuit claims the family has been harassed by outlandish, hurtful, unsupported, and offensive online articles regarding Middleton and his death. Perry County Sheriff Scott Montgomery said Middleton was discovered hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast to his chest after the petition was filed. Montgomery denied DailyMail.com's FOIA request for any of the paperwork on the case. The family of the top advisor to the Bill Clinton, who admitted Jeffrey Epstein to the White House multiple times during his presidency, is pulling out all the stops to keep details of his mysterious death from becoming public. They have petitioned a judge to prevent pictures of Mark Middleton's death scene being released under the Freedom of Information Act. And now the local Arkansas sheriff is interpreting that to mean he can't talk or release any details of Middleton's May 7th suicide. The investigation is still open, and I can't say anything more, Perry County Sheriff Scott Montgomery told Daily Mail. Middleton, who served as a special assistant to the President Bill Clinton in the 1990s, died of the age of 59. His family announced it last month.
And, the biggest thing that really gets me about this whole, we're not releasing any information because we don't want to proliferate conspiracy theories. That's literally counterproductive. It's going to proliferate conspiracy theories. If you want to shut it down and prove people wrong and debunk these so-called theories, then be transparent. Put the information out there and show us exactly what happened, because if you keep it secret, people are going to wonder and theorize because you're not giving them the information. I understand respecting the family's, privacy right now. They're going through a loss. No matter how it happened, it's tragic that they lost him. So I understand that. But if you really want to stop the conspiracy theories, quote unquote, then be transparent.
Right. Like, that's just what it comes down to. You know how you beat a mountain of lies? It's with one of those truth burgers, and you don't get one of them at Bilderberg.
That's right.
You get the lie burger, which is what we're talking about. A mountain of lies can only be blown up by a truth bomb.
That's right.
And sometimes the problem is the truth is the foundation of lies. So they start with the truth and then they disseminate and the misinformation. Listen, I sat and I've talked to some of the top detectives in the world, and they will tell you that the law enforcement purposely gives out misinformation at times to try to catch people.
Yep.
And this person being shot and then hanging himself by the tree, for all we know, somebody got drunk. They saw someone hanging on. They're like, doubtful. The guy that's tied to Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton mysteriously hangs himself. And I wonder why. In an interview with Radar Online before he decided to clam up, Sheriff Montgomery said Middleton was discovered hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast to his chest. He reportedly used an extension cord as a noose and created a makeshift gallows underneath the tree, which appeared to be there as a failsafe in case the shotgun blast didn't kill him. The married father of two, who ran an air conditioning business, did not leave a note, though he told his family he was depressed. Montgomery said, "I don't know the man, and I don't know why he picked our county or picked the location to commit suicide. To our knowledge, he had never been there before, and we have no record of him being there before."
So that raises even more questions. Hold on. Okay, so I thought that this was at a place where he had been before. Now that we know he's completely foreign to this place, 30 miles away from his home, committing this really extravagant hanging and shooting simultaneously thing, there are many, many easier ways to off yourself than to go to those links 30 miles away from your home.
Why would you shoot yourself? That sounds painful in the chest, nonetheless.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to use a shotgun, at least Cobain the thing. You know what I mean? But
Right.
the fact that he was never there before, contrary to what I believed until about 30 seconds ago, just raises so many more questions.
Yeah. To our knowledge, he had never been there before. He said he died from self-inflicted shotgun wound to the chest. He found a tree and he pulled a table over there, and he got on the table and he took an extension cord and put it around a limb, but it put it around his neck, and he shot himself in the chest with a shotgun. I wonder if the extension cable came from his house. It was very evident that the shotgun worked because there was not a lot of blood or anything on the scene. You could tell the shotgun blast was on his chest. You could tell that because there is a hole in his chest and pellets came out the back of his back. It was definitely self-inflicted in our opinion.
I mean, just because pellets came out of his back doesn't necessarily mean it's self-inflicted. It could be a point
close range.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. A close range, point blank, but someone could easily point it at his chest at close range and do it himself. So just because it was close range and it came out of his back does not in any way denote that it was self-inflicted. That's stupid.
It states that they have privacy interest in the photographs, videos, sketches, and other illustrated concept depicting Mark Middleton's body are seen of the Middleton's death in the possession of the Perry County Sheriff and County Coroner. The lawsuit states, since Mr. Middleton's death, Mr. Middleton's family has been harassed by outlandish, hurtful, unsupportive, and offensive online articles regarding Mr. Middleton, his death, and his family. Probably about Epstein. These articles are scurrilous, baseless, and malicious, which they might be. Like, listen, we don't know. Like, people commit suicide, but I don't think a guy that's intelligent is going to shoot himself with a shotgun and then hang himself. It just it sounds bizarre.
If anything, and you were going to go that route to be that extreme to like shoot yourself and hang yourself at the same time, wouldn't it just be easier to use a pistol? I mean, there's logic that needs to be applied here as to why go to that sort of difficult length to off yourself. It doesn't make sense. Now, could he have? Perhaps. It is still within the realm of possibility, but there's so many things here that don't add up, that are suspicious, especially considering just the Clinton body count in and of itself. I mean, how many people associated with the Clintons have died under mysterious circumstances? Seth Rich, the bodyguard, Larry Nichols, there's the other bodyguard. I mean, there's over a dozen. I think maybe 2 dozen.
So check this out. In addition to being a special assistant to the president, Middleton was also an assistant to the chief of staff, Thomas F. Mack McClarty. Middleton left the White House in February 1995 and was accused of setting himself up as an international deal maker. I wonder how. Through Jeffrey Epstein, huh? Exactly the kind of person that would appeal to Epstein. In 1996, an investigation by the White House found that Middleton had abused his access to impress business clients, and he was barred from the executive mansion without senior approval. Middleton went ahead and denied the claims. So here, several Clinton's former associates have died over the years in unexpected circumstances, including Deputy White House Counsel Vince Foster. In 1993, death was ruled a suicide, but sparked a slew of conspiracy theories about the involvement of the Clintons. After Epstein hanged himself while awaiting trial in 2019, Donald Trump retweeted conspiracy theories that the Clintons were involved. Many others with links to Bill and Hillary Clinton have died in mysterious circumstances over the years. By the way, Larry Nichols claimed to be a hitman for the Clintons and kill people.
Yeah.
That literally was his alibi. And when he was dying, he came out and he went on as many stations as he could in 2016 to bring awareness of this. And his picture, like, the guy was literally there with the Clintons for 20-something years. He must have either really hated the Clintons to make up such horrible lies and admitting to such horrible atrocities, or he was telling the truth and wanted to get it off his chest as somebody who found a new wave of wanting the facts and truth to get out there.
Right. And we see that a lot, with deathbed confessions, even with some of the most hardened of individuals. I mean, even former mafioso hitmen that never spilt a word in their life, on their deathbed, they sing like canaries because in a way, you want to, you're facing your mortality. You want to clean your conscience before you pass on. That's common human nature, in my opinion.
So here's several lists have been drawn up. Former Clinton associate Larry Nichols, right here. Here it is, the guy I've talked to and we've interviewed on the Rundown Live before he died. Former Clinton associate Larry Nichols told DailyMail.com then, "I'm not saying the Clintons kill people. I'm saying a lot of people around the Clintons turn up dead," meaning other people may be doing that. The theory came to a head when Hillary Clinton was running president in 2016 as well. Several different lists have been created. Now the name of Mark Middleton will be added. Here's some names. Judy Gibbs, 32, January 3rd, 1986. The one-time penthouse pet died alongside her lover, Bill Puterberg, 57, in an unexplained house fire in Arkansas. Kevin Ives, 17. Don Henry, 16. Also, Victor Razor, 53, died in 92. Paul Tully mysteriously died September 25th, 1992. Paul Goober, 36, died December 7th of 1992. Vince Foster, July 20th of 1993. Stanley Hurd, Jerry Perks, Edward Willie Jr., Herschel Friday, Kathy Ferguson, Ron Brown, Charles Messner, Barbara Wise, Mary Mahoney, Jim McDougall, Linda Thompson, John Ash, Seth Rich, by the way, which is funny because I went and interviewed the person, the manager at the restaurant where Seth Rich was last seen, and the law enforcement didn't even ask him about Seth Rich and what he was doing there and who he was with. They didn't even ask him at all. And it was believed that Seth Rich is the one that sold the Clinton emails.
Yeah.
Or wasn't that it?
Yeah, it's the prevailing theory is that was Seth Rich who leaked a lot of the Clinton emails and DNC information to WikiLeaks. Although WikiLeaks has sort of
with Podesta, potentially all that stuff may have come from this guy right here.
Yeah.
Joe Montano. And not Joe Montana, but Joe Montano, the former Democratic National Conference chairman, Victor Thorne, as well as Sean Lucas, Jeffrey Epstein, amongst many others. And that's just to name a few. The Clintons do have a list of people around them that do die. And Larry Nichols claimed to be a hitman for them. Whether or not that's accurate, we can't say. That is in conspiracy mythology, and those are the claims of a dead man now. You're listening to the rundownlive.com. We hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. If you get a chance, check out the rundownlive.com. We have swag out there for you guys to pick up to help support us. We need your support. The shirts are $25. You just go to the store, and when you make that purchase there, you get one of those really cool Rundown Live shirts. KGRADB, check them out. Band.video, where the video is cataloged for free. Check us out there. We also have the Rumble. All our videos can be found on the Rundown Live. All the audio files of our past, including if I hit audio right now and I search Larry Nichols, I'm sure I can find it. Larry Nichols, we will find, you'll be able to dig through and find our interview with Larry Nichols. All of our stuff is on the rundownlive.com. Make sure you support us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking January 6th. And if you were there, we want to hear from you. Phone calls from the survivors of the January 6th insurrection, as they're calling it. And they're going to have a hell of a shindig because they want you to be hypnotized while they produce their new world order. You're listening to the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay blessed.